Your day with us from 6:30. We are here just to spice up your morning with the relevant information that you need as you go about business during the day. I'm Robert Chirabonyo, in case you've just joined us, and this is Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Now today we are going to be discussing a hot topic, and that is the mid-term access. And that is regarding NSSF for the savers. Now just to give you a brief background, it was on January this year when His Excellency assented to, that is the bill making it in a law now, and of course it was put in the Gazette, and now people, pardon me, and now people that qualify for midterm access can get their monies. Now joining me on set is the Deputy Managing Director, National Solidarity Fund, Mr. Patrick Ayotte. You're most welcome to our studio.
Thank you very much. Good to have me.
Well, briefly give us a background to this NSSF midterm benefits.
The midterm benefits actually was not a new thing. It began, I think, around 2018 when there was actually kind of a desire by members that the fund should do a little bit more for them. As you know, the old law that was there was very restrictive. You were either 55 or 50, which is basically age, you were too old. You were either sick or dead, that was regarding your health, or you changed employment. You moved from the private sector to the public sector, joined the government, or moved out of the country. Then you would get it. But there are so many needs their members have. For example, a member may have 200 million shillings with us, but his wife is sick. And you can't do anything because the law did not allow or make any provisions for that. So there was always this desire from around 2018 that something needed to be done so that members could get some relief. Now, COVID made it worse because when COVID came, you really saw people who had lost their jobs, who were struggling. They had some balances, but the law did not allow us to touch. So this is a culmination of all that, that when the chance to go to amend the NSF Act, there was a provision that made where members could access, when they became eligible, up to 20% of their balances.
I love the word up to 20%, so it's not mandatory that one must access all that 20%,
no.
But it's up to 20%.
Yes.
Now, we know that on the 7th, you opened up to applications for those that qualify, those that are 45 years, have saved for at least 10 years.
Have contributed for at least 10 years.
Contributed, not saved. Have contributed at least 10 years, and for those disabilities, they have their 50%. Now, when we look at what is happening from the 7th when you opened up, and people are eager, we know, beginning on the 17th of March, then they're expecting to get messages, either of their bank accounts and all that. But let's look at who qualifies, who is eligible to get this money.
Actually, the criteria for qualification is quite easy. You are at least 45 years age, and you've contributed for at least 10 years. And contribute for at least 10 years, the minister clarified what that meant, that at least you've contributed 120 contributions to your account. And the way she came to that number, basically, she said, there are 12 months in a year, so therefore 10 years of contribution are 120 months of contributions that you've made to your statement. So those are the only criteria you need to fulfill, and you apply.
Well, when we look at what media was portraying and publishing, we heard that a number of these applications were either dropped or had challenges. What is the real truth now that you have your DMD?
No, people came, and we have a number of channels by which people could apply. We really try to make it easy for Ugandans to apply. For example, somebody with a balance of about 15 million shillings, 20% of that is 3 million shillings, which means he can actually apply on the phone and get that money on the phone. If your balance was higher than 15 million and you still wanted to get it electronically, you could go to the net, to the web, apply through the web. And then finally, you could come and physically fill out a form for that matter. And we built all these layers because one thing you know in our country, connectivity is an issue. Power is an issue. So you may want to use your phone. Last Sunday, I tried to send money on my mobile money, and the network had collapsed. So what we did, we built all these there's platforms and options so that if one fails, you can actually apply to the other one. And sure enough, there are moments when networks were not working. There are moments when power wasn't there, and we gave people options for that. So that was kind of a bit of a logistical gig, but we had planned for that. The other thing was most people who were not qualifying, but showed up. The good thing is you showed up, and right at your entrance, we knew who would qualify because we had the information. We just put in your entrance. Someone would say, no, sir, you don't qualify. And some would say, no, I qualify. So you take them through okay, here are the contributions on a statement. You don't. Oh, by the way, in our database, the national ID you brought us says you're now 45. But in our national database, you're 40. So there's a discrepancy between what you told NIRA and what you told us. So please go to NIRA, sort it out. So there are a few of those. But by Friday, which is really surprising, by Friday, remember we had a public holiday on Tuesday. So in 4 days' time, we received over 11,000 claims. And that's an amazing number, looking at what we had to do. I mean, we really tried to make it as easy as possible, opened up centers, we opened up Kololo airstrip, so members could actually go there if they needed to apply.
Let's look at the requirements, because we know who is eligible, but now what are these requirements that maybe were a knockout to some of the people who applied and did not qualify?
A requirement, you have to have a national ID, you have to have a national social security number, you have to have a telephone number registered in your name. Now that, you may think that is a small matter. You don't believe how many Ugandans have phone numbers that are registered in somebody else's name. And then finally, of course, you have to have a bank account if you're going to get it through the bank. The reason why we need the phone number in your name is if we're going to send the money to your phone, we need to know it was coming to you. So those are the only four criteria that somebody needed to have, or the requirements somebody needed to have to get that.
In case someone didn't have a national ID, are there other documents that you consider? What is the fate of that person? Because we know a number of people have still challenges.
Every Ugandan must have a national ID, and that has been the law for the last few years. Now, there are people who don't fall the categories of being a Ugandan.
Yes.
Suppose a refugee. There's a refugee card that is issued by the Prime Minister's office. There may be somebody who is not a Ugandan, is a foreigner, there's an alien registration number they have. So there are a number of options depending on the category you are. But for Ugandan, by now, I appeal to Ugandan, by now, the national ID has become so important that there are things now you can't do without a national ID. Please get one.
Now also, the law now talks about persons with disabilities.
Yes.
That they get 50% of their savings and of their contribution, and of course, if they have clocked 40 years.
Yes.
Now, how do you determine disability? Because we've had challenges. I remember one time we even had a disability fraternity. They say, you give us leaders who are not part of us. So DMD, NSSF, how do you come out that, yes, this is a person with a disability? I may have glasses, and I say, well, I'm visually impaired.
Yeah.
So
the good thing is in the country, we actually have what's called the National Disability Council. And at that council, we also have an act that was set up actually to deal with persons with disabilities. That act has actually defined what disability is, how to prove disability. So we're not going to invent a wheel. We'll just ride on what the National Council does, what that act says, so that if somebody shows up, we expect them to have some kind of report from a doctor from that council that states they're disabled. Then we use that. Otherwise, like you say, we don't have the competence to determine whether somebody is disabled or not. Now, you can see somebody and you can see they don't have limbs. They don't have arms, that's very obvious. But the definition of disability is much wider than that. I can't just look at you and say you're disabled. I need some expert opinion on that, and we're going to rely on that for that purpose.
Very interesting. Now let's also look at how long will it take a person from the time they apply for this money, because we know that people are eager, like you've talked about the turn-up, 11,000 just in 4 days. That was really a big number. People are desiring to get this money. I know you've made tremendous improvement upon retirement or that, but now for midterm, how short, how effective? Because
we expect a large influx of the numbers. When the minister drafted the regulations, gave us within these first 6 months that by law or by regulations, we have to pay within 45 days. But we began processing those payments from last week already. So there are people who this week could be getting the money, even if we could take the next 45 days to do that. Past the 45 days, things become business as usual. We'll have 30 days basically to process that. But as you know, as a fund, one of the things that we're doing is we're processing some of the benefits within 3 days, 4 days, 8 days. So once we settle, once the sea excitement dies down, it should be within our normal cycle to do that. The beauty is somebody does not have to come to our offices to apply. You try it once, the network's bad, that's okay, go back to bed, wake up in the morning, try it again. When your money will come and will go. And that's why it's very important to have all those three things aligned. Your phone number, your national social security, national ID. That the information contained therein is all correct, because then you just avoid the trouble of coming to drive to a branch.
Well, let's look at the number of people eligible for these midterm benefits. One told me it's over about 41,000. And also, how much are we looking at? Because this will determine how fast in one or the other our possibility is to access this.
If all the 41,000 came who are eligible based on that criteria, we looked at around 800 billion shillings being paid to the members. We know the 11,000 that we had of 100,000, of 100 billion shillings. They're qualified for that. So those are the numbers we are looking at in terms of being able to pay out if all the 41,000 came.
There is a very interesting point in midterm benefits, DMD, that really now people are wondering, should I apply now? Should I not apply now? In terms of the interests vis-a-vis the financial year and how business is done by government. Please throw more light to this.
Okay. First of all, it's a law now. So members, I mean, the law, when the law passed, it's your right to come for the money. You get 1 million shillings, 2 million shillings, 10 million shillings, 30 million shillings. It's the law, it's your right. I'll start right away there. However, we're cognizant of the following, that there are moments when you may not yet be ready to use the money, because you still need to plan out whatever you want to do. Maybe there is that land you're going to buy. You haven't quite dealt with it. Leave it. I mean, plan it, make sure it is ready, then you come for the money. Otherwise, if you come for the money and the plan is not ready, money is like water. It will go into something else. So that's basically what I say. If you're ready, come for it. If you're not, you can wait, because the law is there. You'll get it any time that you need. Now, regarding the issue of interest that you spoke about, NSF, the NSF Act, from all days, provided how interest is paid. It says, if you come for your money in between, this is the old law, if you come for your money in between July 1 and June 30th, before our fiscal year ends, then the money you take out, you cannot get interest on that. That was the old law. That law was carried over into the amendments. So nothing changed. It's the same principle, that if you come in for your money before the year ends, because what it means basically, when you look back,
that's the financial year.
That's the financial year. I think the way the framers of the law looked at it is, the moment you come and I no longer have that money to invest. Whatever I'm investing, I have to break it. Therefore, if you come and take it before the end of the financial year, that portion you've taken does not attract interest. That's the old law. The old law also provided an interesting thing. However, when the financial year ends, between July 1 and the time the minister announces interest, if you come and take your money between that time, we've had your money for 1 year, therefore you need to get some interest. And they provided for a minimum interest of 2.5%. If you take it between July 1 and the time the minister announces interest. Normally when people come in for their money around May, June, July, I say, guy, just wait. Because in 2-3 months' time, the minister is going to announce an interest rate. And it could be the difference between 2.5% and 10%. So wait until the interest is announced, then you take your money. So that basically, it was just an application of the old law into the new law.
Well, rightly explained to us. Now, also another interesting question that comes to the mind of many people have interacted with following the midterm excitement. I want to call it excitement because people are eager. Those that are eligible, of course, like you mentioned, some are trying to be when they are not. How many times can one get their midterm? This may seem obvious, but we need to clarify it.
If you see it said up to 20%. Once you go 20%, it's a one-time deal. You go. Now you could break the 20% in different installments. We're trying to actually finalize the system now so that a member can say, I want to get my 10% now, I'll come back for my 10% later. So then you can break your 20% in terms of when you want to get it. And once the systems are in place for that, that will be much, much easier for everybody to deal with. But otherwise, it's a one-time thing. You get the 20%, that's it. You now wait until the regular benefits come in.
It's one of if you've reached the 20%.
Correct.
Okay. So there are people, if someone has saved and there have been gaps in contributing to this fund, how then do you handle this?
No, we don't really look
well,
at
there hasn't been consistency.
We don't look at the gaps. The load don't say consistent. They don't say 10 years of contributions. So if we go in, say somebody has worked for 15 years, 2 years they didn't work. But there are 120 contributions because the other 13 years they worked, they qualify. So it doesn't have to be consistent month on month. You could have gaps as long as when we look at the 120 contributions on your statement, that's 10 years of saving. That's 10 years of contributions.
Okay, so no worries that in case I lost a job, then again I saved, you can still, it's all about the 120 contributions.
Exactly. In fact, if you come and you have 110, because we have an interesting member who showed up, had 114. So she's missing 6. So I said, okay, just work for the next 6 months. Make sure your employer sends it in. You'll be eligible in 6 months' time and you come for your money. It's that simple.
DMD, there is a fear among the public that maybe all that is seeming rosy, like you're telling them, may have challenges in terms of receiving the money. We know not any could have received right now because we're told beginning 17th of this very month. But what confidence should these contributors have that truly and surely they'll get this money?
Well, the proof is the pudding. Just wait for another week and see who hasn't got their money. Remember, on top of the midterm access, we are still paying the old traditional benefits. People are turning 55, people are turning 50, people are losing their loved ones, people are ill, they become invalid, people are traveling, moving out of the country. We're still paying those benefits. And there's nobody, I don't think anybody has complained that they become eligible, they came to apply and we refuse to pay them without a reason. So we're still paying. So it's just for us, it's business as usual. Yes.
Then also, let's do some bit of mathematics.
Yes.
How will these interests be computed?
Which interest?
For example, someone saves with NSSF.
Yes.
In terms of knowing that, yes, this is exactly what I'm supposed to get.
Yeah. No. How will this contribution be paid? We compute 20% on the balance on the day we pay you. And the reason is this.
No mathematics, please get beat.
Yes. Let's say you've got 15 million shillings when you came to apply. But then because we've taken 30 days, there's another contribution that has come. We take into account the balance on the day we pay you, including that new contribution. So if it is 15 million that you started off with, times 20, you could get 3 million shillings. Suppose when we're going to pay you have 16 million now, we take 20% of the 16 million. And that's what you get paid.
Well, this may not be directly to the fund holders, but we've had a number of interesting experiences when people get these monies. As NSSF, you've rightly said that you don't even need to come to our offices. You can just be anywhere, apply digitally, and everything is done for you. Let's understand, are there any preparations? Because sometimes, remember NSSF had where they would try for these ones that are finally out of service and give them some financial, literacy, management skills and all this. For this time, have you factored in this, or it's about fulfilling what the law says?
No, actually, the whole of during the lockdown, we actually were running a financial literacy campaign across the country. The most interesting thing during the second lockdown, we reached over 1 million members with financial literacy, but dealing specifically with financial disciplines, budgeting that are needed. So we've been doing that as part and parcel of our service to members. When the midterm comes, one of the things that's very interesting is members in that excitement don't want to tell them how to spend their money. Say, excuse me, it's my money, can I spend it as I want? And we say, yeah, I think you're very right. You'll spend your money as you want without a real issue, because that's what you need to be able to do in terms of having that. So I think we walk a thin line. My advice to members is, it's your money. The thing is, we don't know what members are going through. There could be a member who gets 1 million shillings, and to you, that's a small amount of money. But for the first time in his life, he's able to go and pay full school fees for his children. For the first time in his life. That's a big difference to him. Maybe he has got somebody who is ill. Maybe there's health and so on. And 500,000 shillings will make a difference in the treatment they get. So we don't know what people are going through. Yeah, there are people who may get it and go and blow it, drinking whatever it is. They're there, but we don't know. So my only thing is, if you're not yet ready, don't have a plan, wait. It's your money, it will come. You'll come for it when you're ready, so that you can use it in the most useful manner that will improve your life.
Just remind our viewers that you can be part of the topic of discussion this morning as we discuss the midterm that is accessed by the National Security Fund for those that have been contributing and eligible to get this money. Send in your views, your opinions, your questions to the Deputy Managing Director, National Social Security Fund. That is Patrick Ayotte, with whom I'm in the studios here, because we want to know your views. We want to know, maybe you've applied. Maybe your application documents became a problem. Maybe there is something that you really want to hear from the Deputy MD, NSSF, regarding this midterm. It is all about excitement. You can't believe it, that in just 4 days, over 11,000 people had applied to access their midterm benefits that gives you up to 20% of your contribution, as long as you've saved for 10 years, you've clocked that is a person with disability, you've clocked your 40 years, then the other, you've clocked 45 if you don't have a disability. For disability, you get your 50%. So let's get your opinions, your views on our social media platforms. Our WhatsApp number is on your screen. That is 0709 60 25 92. I repeat, 0709 60 25 92. But also you can send an SMS, and still we'll be reading out all those on our social media platform. Keep them coming. I'll be reading them, and we'll be getting the feedback. Now, we've looked at the numbers. We've looked at the monies that are going to be given out, about 800 billion, you said. And now if you have about 41,000 people that qualify for this. But this is going to be a continuous thing.
Yes.
Because every year there is someone who's making the 120 at least contribution.
Correct.
There's someone who's clocking 45, who's clocking 50, who's clocking 40. If they're, won't this in any way drain the fund?
No, it won't. In fact, this first year, what we see is, because it's the first time it is being done, we expect the numbers to be high. Come next year, they will still be coming, but that number will be diminished. That will not be that much. Now, don't forget one thing, and many of us have kind of made the mistake to think that the whole amendment is about midterm. There are other provisions in that law that are incredible and good for this country. Think about this. Many people are, you know, NSF is a very public interest group company. There's a time when I heard a Bada man say, but waste centers are fair. But the guy has never saved with NSF. Why? He's not been allowed to save with NSF by then. So there are a lot of people who are claiming NSF, but the law didn't allow them to save with NSF. So what this law has done now is to open that. That first of all, there were people who had by law had been locked out. For example, if your employer had less than 5 people, they're not required to save with NSSF, and they were missing. That law has removed that. If somebody was in the voluntary space, informal sector, he's a market vendor, he's a bada rider, you name it, they couldn't save with NSSF. That has been removed. So now we suddenly move from a potential of 2 million members to 16 million members. Now I'm challenging those guys who are in bada, those of you who really wanted to save with NSSF, now is the time to do. And we will come in, and we're designing now the products to bring to you, so that you get a chance to now save and be part of this entity we call NSF, which is our own company as Ugandans. By the way, not to tout our horns, we are good. NSF, we are good. Actually, comparing with, we don't, there is no fund our size you compare to us in Africa. Even globally, few beat us. We are that good. And this is our own thing as Ugandans. So all of us, when you want to save, please do. The thing what we're going to do is to design it, because voluntary, to design it in a way that is a bit more flexible. So that in the old system, you saved until you got your money when you're 55. In the voluntary space, it's going to be more flexible. You may say you can save for 3 years, for 5 years, for 10 years, so that when those years mature, you may save for your education or for your health. You can top up, besides, instead of just saying I need 5% to come, you can top up, that's considered voluntary. There will be flexibility around that. Why? Because that's how you're going to manage some of the life issues. So now, instead of waiting until you're 55, you know, I have planned for my education with NSSF. I planned for my health with NSSF. I planned for, oh, by the way, I'm about to buy land. In 5 years, you planned for that with NSSF. So that we now began actually to look at your life from the time you're born to the time you leave us on this earth.
Does that in one way defeat the initial purpose of Social Security?
No, but now that is Social Security. Because Social Security is not only when you retire. Social Security is social security as you go along. If I can help you plan for education, education is one of the plans for Social Security. Housing is one of those. Health is one of those things. And you can pay for health care. And you can pay for your education. You are actually taking Social Security.
Well, let me first read a few of the messages that have come in. Good morning, Robert. Thanks for the program. What about employers who lost their jobs when they had not saved for 120 months and they have made 45 years? Do you consider them as well? Thanks. This is George from Bade. Then also let me read out this. We have, NSSF should give us our money. Most people are struggling and we have saved for over 10 years. Imagine sleeping hungry when someone is enjoying your money. Ooh. Please give us your name and just remind you, do not call on this number. Please kindly just send a WhatsApp message or an SMS message and we'll be able to read that out. And we have, okay, another interesting one. Thanks for the program. I would like to know for those who passed on when they qualified for midterm benefits, who accesses for them that money and what are the prerequisites they are supposed to have. This is Wagilasa Innocent from Entebbe. I find this interesting. And let's begin with this. Those that passed on and now when they calculate, by the time they passed on, so they qualify for midterm. I don't. Well, it comes to you.
No, because if the member has passed on, he actually qualifies for 100% of, or the family qualifies for 100% of the money. Why would you even want to come for the 20% when you can come for the 100%? That falls under what we call survivor benefit. And there's the requirements for that now. If that member is in Entebbe, just go to our Entebbe branch. We have got forms that will give you what you need to fill out to now you as a survivor or the beneficiary of that member to apply for 100%. Now, in that case, in that way is when you can say, okay, I really don't want to take 100%. Can I take 20? Can I take 50? But now that's up to you. So it's there's a bigger opportunity for you than the 20% in that case. On the other, the question the two members raise is both of them are related. NSSF lives and acts within the law. What the law has told us to do is what we'll do. However much we want to get around it. If you've not saved for 120 months, we can't because the law does not allow us. If you've saved, you've lost your job and you're hungry, the law doesn't allow us. And this one, I'm going to challenge every Ugandan. These laws are made by members of parliament. And we know where you live, there is a member of parliament in your constituency. If you are pressed, tell the member of parliament to go to parliament and bring laws that you want us to live by. Otherwise, if we try to do things outside the law, we become unlawful. And I think when we become unlawful, at that point you can lose trust in us because then we're just being rogue in that case.
Another one, thanks for the show. I am by the name Abdurashid Kakande, working with, I won't mention the petroleum company. Have been saving since 2009. I am now 42 years of age. Can't I also access midterm? Because the situation out there is not good. I have a family, 3 children now, and I would love to buy them land, build for them, and also build some rentals. Got school fees challenges as well. Thank you for the show. I'm very impressed.
Well, Mr. Kakande, same thing to you. We are living by the law. We are acting by the law. The lawmakers make the law. Contact your lawmaker so they can change it. You know, the thing that's interesting about Ugandans is we cannot get disconnected from Parliament. They pass laws that affect us. We don't read them. We don't pay attention to them. And when the law is passed, we say, oops, this law is bad. It's our country. So guys, when these laws are being passed, engage so you can tell your member of Parliament, this is what I need. I need this thing in this law. So that when it is passed, we live by it. Otherwise, until there is a law, as an SSF, we can't work outside that law. We become unlawful. And the reason why we are good, we've actually been lawful.
Very interesting. Well, that is the reason why you should always watch House in Session on UBC TV. We are the only television or TV station in Uganda that gives you that. Interest yourself. Every time there's a sitting plenary, we have that. And it's that for you to follow and know what is your member of parliament contributing. So always make it a date with us, and then you'll interest yourself and know even what to demand for. Well, thanks for the show, guys. How can NSSF help an individual access his or her package if he had been working outside of the country? Iggy, I'm one of the East African community member states.
Remember, we are looking, if you're working outside the country and you still continue to contribute, you are eligible. If when you worked outside the country, you did not contribute, you don't have 120 contribute, you are not eligible. So it's just the mechanics of that in terms of how it was written.
Well, thank you so much for all the views, the opinions. So many are coming in, but due to time, we shall just forward them to the DMD NSSF, and you'll be getting your replies, at least that I'm sure of. Well, let me just have your final shot.
Yes. Thank you, Ugandans. I really want to appeal to you. If you get a chance, the money is yours, so please take the time, come to apply. We have got 3 platforms. If you're getting if your balance is less than 50 million shillings, use your phone. If it's more, use your internet. If not, come to our branch as a last resort. You don't have to. Secondly, if you have discrepancy in information, please make sure you correct that. Many of us growing up in the village, and hopefully I can tell this little story. I grew up in Tororo, and I have my colleagues in P7, they failed P7. So he didn't want to be considered a 9 repeater. He moved to another school. So he did P7 in that school with a new name. And so unlikely he didn't pass, he went to another school. The 5th school he passed, went to S1. Now he has got a new name, but he never moved his age. He was 13 until he went to S1. Now he's 14, but there is a gap. So in S1, he's 4 years young. He's 4 years younger than he is actually. And he goes through, and through his professional life, he has got a new name and a different age. So he works, goes to the university, he gets a job. Then he wakes up and I say, wait a minute, but I'm actually 55. But when you look at his records, he's 51. Because there's a point he froze his age to get whatever he wanted to do. But when he went to NIDA, he gave the right age. It's 51. So now there's a discrepancy between his profession, the data on his professional life, what we have in SSF, what NIDA has. Please go and correct that, because that will mess you up. And we do that over and over again, so please correct this data. Finally, there are really other things that in this bill that are critical. Guys, as we open it up and you can save for your child's education, you can open for you can save for housing, you can save for land, for health. Take advantage of it, because this money will grow. You will get interest with it. Now the issue of midterm will become midterm 20% becomes a non-issue, because you know I've saved for 3 years for this purpose, I've saved for 5 years for this purpose, I've saved for 7 years for this purpose, and we'll help work it out for you, so that at a minimum you know, not only are you catering for retirement, but these life issues too, you plan for them And it can be as little as 20,000 shillings a month, 30,000 shillings a month, 50,000. We'll work it out with you. You can be a farmer who only gets his money once a year because that's when you sell your cows. We'll work with you. And that's the whole idea behind us being flexible and trying to bring this over to the members. So really, I really implore, when this comes through, please do. Finally, if you have an employer who has been telling you not to send your money, now this one you'll feel the pain, because you will come, you think you've been saving for 120 months, you'll find there's a gap. Because along the way your employer told you, don't send your money. Please go for that employer. Call us, we'll come with you and we'll go for that employer because he's stealing from you. And it's very important that we do it together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Managing Director, National Social Security Fund, for having found time.
Thank you.
I believe there is so much that you, our viewer, you've learned if you're eligible for midterm access. One is having proper documentation. Then also there is confidence and trust that your money will be given to you a maximum of 45 days from the day you apply. We wait to hear stories of those that have gotten this money. Have a lovely day. I'll leave you with Ruben to take you through sports.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.